Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Carlos M Show with me, Carlos. I'm your host. And today we're going to be talking some more about Joe Rogan. Nobody listens to Joe Rogan. Nobody. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, let us do a little review of the headlines. Well, we're going to review a few of the headlines, and one of them is the Washington Free Beacon went ahead and posted an article where the Biden administration is going to fund crack pipe distribution to advance racial equity. $30 million program will provide smoking kits to vulnerable communities. According to them, the Biden administration is set to fund the distribution of crack pipes to drug addicts as part of its plan to advance racial equity. Okay, enough said. I'm not going to say anything else about it. Like I said, this show is dedicated to making you think, not telling you what to think. So think about it. If you want to let me know what you think, put it in the comments below. What else we got in the news? Along the same lines. The Middletown Press alert the Justice Department signals it might be willing to allow safe injection sites for people to use heroin and other drugs. Again, I don't know what to tell you. These guys must be high. What do you think about that? So this is your tax dollars at work. I don't see how that's going to help anybody, but that's my opinion. That's one man's opinion. And after all, you must think for yourself. You may think that's a good thing. So in Canada, the truckers are continuing to protest. Now the Canadian police, according to Greenwich Times and other news outlets, the Canadian police is making arrests amid the Freedom Convoy protests. They're seizing their fuel. They're seizing vehicles. And then, of course, you got the wonderful right-wing GoFundMe, in my opinion. Not right-wing, I'm sorry, left-wing. Because they wanted to decide where $10 million were going to go. They seized it. They just said they were seizing these assets, and we're going to distribute them to the causes that we deem are appropriate, because something about violating their terms of service and something about violence and whatnot. And these are the same people that funded many of the riots of 2021, 2020, 2021, Chop Shop, whatever it was called. So they went ahead and allowed funding for those folks. In the meantime, peaceful protesting truckers in below zero temperatures that may need fuel and or food are being deprived. Of course, after much backlash, they backed off, and now they're offering refunds. That's a problem. So that's another one in the news, and you can go ahead and think for yourself and say, think what you will about that. Olympic corporate sponsors sticking to deals despite boycott calls against China and their atrocities. Three of those companies, Coca-Cola, Intel, and Airbnb, among others. Are they doing the right thing? Of course they are for their stockholders. But I don't want to hear anything more about principles out of these companies. And any company that supports doing business and having the games there. I don't see how we should have had the games there in the first place. We shouldn't have. And but that's one man's opinion again. I don't think any of the athletes, I know they worked hard for 4 years, but in the first place, how did China get this? The IOC is corrupt, in my opinion. It's nothing but to do but money. The IOC should never have allowed the games to be held in any regime that oppresses people. Period. No said about that. But on another note, on the Olympics, we had our one Olympian, Olympic skater Xu Yi, who was blasted on Chinese media, social media, after poor performance. She gave up her U.S. citizenship to compete for China, and now I guess she went in. I didn't watch it. She went in. She took a few tumbles, and she got up crying. Boo hoo. Too bad. Can't support you. Won't support you. You gave up your U.S. citizenship. You're now a communist. You're part of the CCP. You're a Chinese citizen under their regime. You voluntarily gave up your citizenship to compete for China. I am half Chinese myself. I am an American. My mother's Chinese, as you can see in my background here. There's my grandfather. He came from mainland China via England, Jamaica, etc., etc., fleeing away from that garbage and the Cultural Revolution of Mao. That said, you reap what you sow. Now, perhaps you should stay there. Don't feel sorry for you. I think it's freaking funny. Karma has a way of catching up. Karma's a bitch, and so are you. Anyways, that's my opinion. You know, I think you did a foolish thing. Whether you're young or not has nothing to do with it. I think that you made your choices, and now you got to live with them. They don't love you there because you failed. Here, we would have just admired the effort that it took you to get there. But nevertheless, we don't care about the Olympics being held in Beijing in this household anyways, except for one person, and that is my daughter. She likes the Japanese skating teams, figure skating teams. She is a fan, and I do not prohibit anyone in my household from exercising their right to watch what they want. I told her my feelings on it. She agrees with me. Nevertheless, she wants to watch just that particular team. And my wife and I and the rest of the family have chosen not to watch any of the Olympics as our form of protest, so to speak. I wish I could want to watch them. And then you also, on the other hand, in the news, I'm hearing that all the athletes are boohooing and crying about the conditions and food and this and that. What did you expect? You're going to a communist country. So you get what you get. Too bad. Don't feel sorry for you. Okay? And let's move on to that. And the headlines are all out there, folks, for you. I mean, there's several things going on. But right now, you know, there's so much stuff going on right now. And this is part of the idea that they keep you busy jumping from one spot to another. Briefly, I want to talk about the rules for the ENAP for me kind of thing. We have Stacey Abrams and several other Democrats caught not wearing a mask while the people around them wearing a mask. Let me tell you something. This is not only a thing that feeds their ego, because that's what they are. They're a bunch of egomaniacal maniacs that are just drunk on power and want more power and want to retain power. If you go on the internet, you'll see the picture of, well, it was removed, but not before a lot of people were able to download it, so it's still floating around there. Stacey Abrams smiling away with a bunch of third graders all masked up. She had to show who she was. She gets to be her. She gets to show who she is. Same thing with all the other governors. I held my breath, blah, blah, blah. Got my picture taken with Magic Johnson, the other clown in California, all those clowns. So you're looking at all of these human beings that human beings have a great capacity to be jerks, and they are the epitome of it. But they sit there, they're on mask. Even Obama, there's a recent picture of him showing where they're building some kind of another one of his castles, because the guy's a billionaire now, I guess. He got very rich while he was in office. So they're building him a house. He has no mask on. He's in Hawaii. No mask. All the workers around are wearing masks. Okay, great, because he's too important and everyone must see who he is. Now it's gotten to the point where the mask is no longer something to keep you safe from viruses, etc. I mean, there's a ton of studies out there that show that the ineffectiveness or the effectiveness, whatever the case, you follow whatever guidance you choose, and you follow the guidance of your local authorities or whatnot. Or if you choose, I'm not telling you what to do. Nevertheless, you have all these authoritarians that they don't have to wear the mask because you have to see who they are. They get to be them, like I was saying, while you are dehumanized, particularly the children. It dehumanizes you. You can't see expressions. You can't see, you don't get any feedback. You don't get any feedback. You just got to rely on auditory feedback, and you don't have any visual. Human beings are visual beings. They're visual beings. Unless you're blind, and then you enhance the other attributes you have, the other senses. But this, in my opinion, masks dehumanize you, and this is how they want to keep you. You're not human to them. You are nobody. And this is why the title of this particular episode is Nobody Listens to Joe Rogan. Well, Joe, let me tell you, nobody listens to you. Nobody's like me. Nobody like the 11 million, I guess, people plus that follow you. I just subscribed myself. Recently, I have listened to some of your podcasts here and there, but I subscribe. I'm following your podcast now. And hopefully one day, if you're willing, you can interview a nobody, because you always have all these great interviews. You have these interviews of experts, and you have these interviews of people that are experts in their field, and you have very interesting conversations. I think it's about time you're having a conversation with a nobody, an everyday nobody like myself. I'll pay for the trip, whatever, to go over there if you're willing. Or if you decided I'm not worthy enough, you can pick somebody else. But pick a nobody, because there is, in the United States, there are probably millions. Now let's look at an exact number here. You have the, according to the latest census, 2021, population 334,805,269. We actually went down in growth from 2021, the growth from 61% to 59% growth rate in population. That's a lot of people. So out of those, we'll probably take about maybe we're not talking taking out the bureaucrats in the government, take about, give or take, 2,000-3,000 somebodies. So that'll leave the rest of us nobodies out there as they look at us. They look at us like we're nothing. They look at us as numbers. Proof of that was, for example, that picture. Here are a bunch of little third graders, and you can tell they're children. You know, they're probably very cute, very bright-eyed, looking towards the future perhaps. But that's very difficult when you're masked up. When you're masked up, when there is medical evidence, expert evidence, studies that, especially for children, that doesn't help much. If anything, it's probably detrimental to them. But you follow the regulations, and you mask your children up. I am against it. I'm very, some of the teenagers out there are rising up, and everybody's getting tired. And, we caught on to your little game, Mr. and Mrs. Government, Big Brother, a long time ago. But we gave you the benefit of the doubt. And perhaps we gave you the benefit of the doubt for a little bit too long. Now it's time to start saying no. No, we're not going to do it anymore. An example of that was that high school student that promoted a peaceful protest, not wearing the mask. If he said, well, if the school suspends you or whatever, okay, we'll take our medicine, we'll go home. And that's that. Virginia was okay with allowing the previous governor to make an executive order mandating masks. But now that they got a new governor, who's not of their liking or not of their persuasion, so to speak, give an executive order reversing that and giving the parents back the power over their children, as they should. Now they're fighting them in court. And of course, they can't fight on their own. They're being funded by someone, somewhere, somebody. I don't know, Soros. Who knows? Of course, Dr. Anthony Fauci has nowhere to be seen lately here. He's hiding because the hammer's coming down for him. But I digress. So nobody listens to Joe Rogan. And Spotify CEO seems to know that. Spotify CEO knows that nobody listens to Joe Rogan. However many million, I guess about 11 million followers. 11 million nobodies. And they're keeping them on. And that's not all about principle. And I tell you why I say that. Because the CEO also issued an apology letter to the employees as to the reasons why he was retaining Joe Rogan, blah, 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 because he's got some woke employees, that are complaining about, well, they should get the fuck out. Is what I would tell them as a boss, They're there to work. They're not there to have their, they're there to work. They know what they're working with. There's tons of material on Spotify that could be considered offensive to a lot of people. If so-and-so wants to pull their music, okay, but let them pull their music. Or not let them pull their music. So you have to make the choice. The CEO of Spotify has decided to keep Joe Rogan on and support him. I give him kudos for that. We'll see how long that lasts. I saw recently that Rumble, which is where I do my podcasting, has offered Joe Rogan, I guess, $100 million to bring his material over there. Dude. Stop, and Joe Rogan has issued a couple of apologies, and they put all this stuff out of context where he was using the N-word in different contexts, and they put it together, and it sounds horrible. He even said it. He even sounded horrible to myself, is what he said when they put it that way. It's a hit piece, and they're just trying to put a hit on him. And it's kind of like Mafia Style shit, They're They're just trying to put a hit on you. They put a price on your head to try to silence you. That's what happens to people that testify against, wise guys and stuff like that. They disappear. Or this is what happens in communist countries, such as China. Jack Ma, the businessman that spoke against the tennis player, they kind of disappear. They reappear them when they're willing to do some kind of propaganda deal for them. That's what they used to do in Nazi Germany too. Vietnam, the Viet Cong would parade prisoners after they had beaten the crap out of them and make them read statements, confessing to crimes and this and that. And then they disappeared them. So nobody listens to Joe Rogan. That's the only reason that they keep him. So here's my point. If nobody listens to Joe Rogan, and that's 11 million nobodies, there's power in to being nobody. Because you'll become somebody at some point. Same thing during the elections. When election time comes around, all us nobodies will become somebody to the politicians. They'll come clamoring to you. They'll shake your hand. They'll hug you. They'll kiss you in the lips without a mask. Unlike Kamala Harris and her husband that kind of kissed each other with a mask on. How weird is that? But I'm telling you, nobodies are powerful. Be proud of being nobody. I'm proud of being a nobody because I know in my mind and in my heart that there's power into being humble and being nobody. Together, and that's the beautiful thing about it. Think about it. The thing that keeps Joe Rogan in the air, it's not Joe Rogan, really. I mean, it is. It is Joe Rogan because he's also a nobody that became somebody because of a bunch of nobodies. Make sense? So think about that for a moment. That applies anywhere. Applies in your job, applies to cancel culture, applies at the restaurants, applies at the stores, applies everywhere. If nobody gets together and show, whether it be with your wallet, whether it be with your sponsorship, nobody's very powerful. So, you must think about that. 332,915,073 people in the United States, all of which are nobody. Of course, we're not all united in thought, in ambition, and this and that, ideology. There are some separations there. But my point is that if you want to succeed, you must recognize that you're nobody and that you're not the only one. There are millions of us out there, millions of nobodies that want to do the right thing. So Spotify recognizes this. So Spotify is not doing it all out of principle. I don't care what anybody says. They're making a sound business decision because nobody listens to Joe Rogan. But that nobody is you and I. And anybody can become someone if they stand up. And if they have nobody stand with them. Being a nobody means that you're not alone. Being a nobody means that you have strength. So when somebody looks at you with disdain, which can come from a supervisor to some kind of store manager that's trying to think that they're somebody. Well, let them know that you're nobody. Enlist the power of the collective, if you will, to use one of those buzzwords that leftists like to use. And I believe in the collective. And the collective is comprised of a nobody. And believe you me, the right thing will always prevail. The American spirit is strong. The American spirit has prevailed for hundreds of years. We've overcome so much. We've overcome tyranny. We've overcome slavery. We've overcome a lot of social ills. We're still working on it, and we continue to improve. But don't let anybody tell you that you don't count. When they tell you that you're nobody, instantaneously tell them, yeah, you're right, I'm nobody. But so are all my brothers and sisters out there. Most people want to do the right thing. Most people want to live their life like you and I, regular guys. You know, this show, Carlos M, we're kind of dedicated to the regular Joe, the 9 to 5er, or 4:30 to 6 o'clock to 4:30, whatever shift you work. Blue collar, white collar, small business owner, clerk, first responders, police officers, pharmacists, a bunch of nobodies. The world cannot move without a nobody. They tell you this to keep you in a mental prison. Free yourself. Nobody listens to Joe Rogan. Prove me wrong. He's still in the air. Still on the air. He'll probably stay on the air. And he should stay on the air. And so should anybody. We don't promote hate, but I'll defend your right to hate if you want to. You'll just have to pay the consequences for it. Plus, you'll let me know where you're coming from, which is fine with me. I'd rather know where you're coming from than you just be some kind of a undercover hater, which there's lots of those too. But these leftists have become very brazen. They don't care anymore. They have rules for thee, but not for them. And that will continue. So come the midterms, we need to prove them that nobody listens. Nobody listens. Nobody sees anything. Nobody sees everything. You want your rights restored? Exercise your rights. Like the Canadians are. Kudos for them. So, Joe, I wish you the best. I'm following you. I hope someday, if you want, you can interview a nobody, whether it either be me or some other nobody. But a regular person that can tell you what us nobodies really think. I think I speak for not everybody, but I do speak for a large swath of the population. And hopefully you'll stay in the air and you'll do, you're a smart man, you'll do what you're supposed to. And you have our full support here at the Carlos M Show, and I'm sure you have the support of at least 11 mil, I think. And hopefully that will grow, whether they like you or not. So with that, I hope that wish you the best. Also, Don Bongino is coming out with a show. I'm going to give him a plug here where I think it's on Fox, where he's going to be talking about cancel culture. And he's going to be interviewing a lot of the people that cancel culture attempted to quiet. And we have a lot of those. Please don't forget to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button wherever it is. I'm not very savvy with this stuff. I do have Instagram and Twitter, and also Facebook page, Carlos M Show. If you want to email me, you can email me at carlos@thecarlosmshow.com. Carlos@carlosmshow.com. Also, you're welcome to place your comments down there. I want to thank everyone in the last episode that made some comments. Some of them nice, some of them not so nice, but it's okay. I appreciate your feedback. Once again, this has been another episode of the Carlos M Show. If you're at work, please be safe. Come back home the way you went out. If you're at home with your loved ones, tell them you love them because tomorrow is never promised. And may your God bless you. Take care.